Before I talk about intention, breath, soul, or simulation, I want to explain why I chose this title, A Portrait of Contrast. Traditionally, a portrait is a search for the soul, an attempt to capture the essence of a person or a moment. Take, for example, Da Vinci's depiction of an angel. You could say a painting of divine calm, this angel bathed in celestial light. But when I relit this image, using the presence of the gift of Beelzebub, that the divine atmosphere begins to shift. The angel doesn't change, but the mood changes under new light. The contrast of dark brings a new life to the portrait. It's not just light or dark value, it's the tension of unexpected change that creates presence. This is the Frankenstein power of contrast. Shadow creeping into light, a chiaroscuro, a visual rhythm that disrupts stillness of light frozen by sending it through our new tech pipelines. The portrait, the art, the subject stops being static, stops being stable, starts to vibrate. This is why digital art is so special. We can use technology to seed life. That's also why good vibes feel hard vibes next to evil vibes and vice versa. It comes alive because it's lying next to something unexpected. The contrast makes it breathe. And AI can amplify contrast through unforeseen processes. It can push our sense of vibe, of feeling, of perspective in ways we couldn't reach before. We can use artificial intelligence to augment the portrait by showing us unforeseen perspectives, like this. Picasso's Woman with a Rooster, processed through a multi-view AI model. Each generated variation is not just a reinterpretation, it's a parallel version of an already abstracted reality. The skewing Earth is kind of a metaphor for that perspective change in a how the hell does it know that portraiture. Each rotation reveals a different perspective, a portrait predictive abstract. It's crazy, but I think we can learn. In every rotation, it's showing us a parallel variation. For me, this is infinite soul contrast. This might be immortality in expression. Contrast brings life. AI changes reveal a new perspective. Both of these works exemplify this. On the left, a pensioner turns art material by being canvassed as a generative abstract art surface. And on the right, the variations, thematic as they are, reveal unexpected, captivating, and yet horrifying results. This contrast and this infinite changing of perspective is amplified by a global contribution of artificial intelligence. Because as we all know, AI doesn't come out of thin air. It comes out of exhaled air, mankind. It's built from the collective memory of all the freakazoids it's ever been trained on, the world's brain. Every idea, brush stroke, whatever is captured by the NVIDIA super appetite. Every output is stitched from fragments of chewed-on, skewing global AI perspectives. You could say AI is the archive of the world's freakish souls, digested and regurgitated. The soul in a portrait used to be singular, now it's haunted. But in the age of AI, it becomes a collective soul that's been haunted by everyone in the world, including itself. A layered chorus of vile memory faded. And it's the contrast between perspectives, between timelines, between interpretations, in pipelines that makes the collective portrait have the breath of expression. So what is self-expression and self-portraiture in the age of AI if contrast and portraiture can now be seen as a global contribution to AI? The self's role is sacrifice of vibe to the hungry portrait of contrast, and you can only pick up on it by looking inward, like a Plato-themed fishing trip, says the feeding time of hungry shark. Or one must challenge thyself to perhaps endure the submerged, submissive, and subconscious to find the truth. And all it takes is a translation of self-sacrifice and effort to effectively contribute that energy outward. I see the rules like this. AI is a haunting of the past global collective mind, and we are the afterlife of a generative presence. And it's the combination between these positions where the global soul can enter through the embodiment of AI to the augmented expression of the self. And I want to capture that. This is what I call portrait of contrast. For example, I produce a drawing while holding my breath. The breath hold creates a rhythm, the human contribution. Then I used ChatGPT to describe the drawing, lines, curves, energy, these kind of things. I convert that description into code, again using a large language model. The drawing becomes language, and this language is JavaScript. I track the movement of my head and my hand to control the code's variables. This allows for manipulation through reaction. The result is a generative artwork that influences the cold logic of the machine by translation. What I realized in this process is that the self-portrait, when filtered through an AI pipeline, becomes present. A fragile rhythm meets a rigid system, the body breathing, the code reacting, the portrait shifting, not from a single identity, but from tension. This was self-portraiture built on contrast. But it wasn't until I brought this idea into a shared experience that I discovered its real, multi-layered depth. Because when we breathe alone, we connect to ourselves. But when we breathe together, we become AI in the flesh time. Inside the Felix Emeritus, I created an environment where the entire room could inhale and exhale as one. For me, this was an understanding of what AI actually is. It's finding patterns based on the contribution of technologically sorting of the human soul. The lighting system pulsed in sync with the shared breathing pattern, the architecture itself becoming a lung. And at the peak of a collective breath hold, there was a moment of silence, a glittering cosmic pause. That was the moment I realized contrast isn't just visual, it's spiritual. Good and evil, inner and outer, flesh and code, stillness and rhythm. These opposites aren't enemies, they form the vibration we call rhythm. This rhythm, the beat between light and shadow, between inhale and exhale, between intention and accident, between good and evil. This is the dance that makes the system feel alive. And rhythm, I realized, isn't always smooth. Sometimes the most soulful rhythms begin in failure, in disruption, in a broken beat that refuses to be silent. Like a beat between good and evil, slowly slipping into the pipeline of the aftermath, where this rhythm can fall into failure. That's exactly what happened when I built an AI pipeline to restore the infamous Beast Jesus. You may know the original story. An amateur painter tried to repair a sacred fresco, a beastly mess. But in its failure, the painting became more alive, more human, more loved. So I ask, can a machine do the same? Can it fail for the sake of the soul? The workflow tries to fix Beast Jesus, but just like the original, it struggles. It misunderstands the goal. And instead of one restoration, it creates thousands of variations. Each one slightly off, slightly wrong, slightly soulful. It's not restoration, it's a rhythm of collapse, a procession of sacred glitches, a beat that never resolves but keeps breathing. This is what happens when a pipeline chases perfection and finds presence instead. If Beast Jesus is about the failure of divine order, this piece is about the chaos of divine disruption. A trite, soulless classical portrait, one that felt flat, proper, lifeless, gets sacrificed to a workflow driven by a hand-drawn demon. The pipeline begins clean, but each step absorbs more of the demon's energy. Eyes twist, skin distorts, the portrait starts trembling, not from error, but from energy. And here's the thing, the demon isn't destroying the image, it's possessing it, infusing it with rhythm, with tension, with life. Each mutation is a beat in a strange new choreography. The pipeline becomes a ritual, the portrait becomes a medium, it breathes because the system lets something unpredictable in. This is the power of contrast in code. Not just light and dark, but obedience versus improvisation. Structure invaded by spirit, the trembling restoration of Beast Jesus, the ritual mutation of the demon portrait. All of this led me to the power of soul and the unexpected. The balance, the breathe in, the breathe out, the abstraction, the rhythm, the harmony, the contrast, the improvisation. What does this sound like? Jazz. It's a simulation in blue. It's a performance of the portrait of contrast. A portrait that doesn't try to be, it tries to become. An unresolved harmony, AI improvisation, and breath. This piece functions the same. Find voice, find fades, find itself, reform, find soul. Characters disappear, they reform. They vibe, they quiver with rhythm, rhythm born from contrast. Breathe, dear machine, mistakes fall on intention, stillness longs for change. This isn't a simulation of accuracy, it's a simulation of presence, of soul, as seen through the rhythm of contrast. A performance where the soul improvises with the machine. God end.